Hey guys, it's Jane. It's Friday today, so I'm back for another Friday Reads. I've actually spent a couple of days sick in bed this week, and so my reading is a bit fluffy, and that's fine. And I've had to put down a couple of books that were just not bad, but they just weren't what I needed at the time. So to start with, I'll tell you what I finished. I finished Magic Slays by Ilona, which I think is the fifth in the Kate Daniels series. I've been really enjoying this series. Kate Daniels is a magic mercenary in Atlanta in an alternative sort of present day. And the world that she inhabits is one where magic and tech are swapping over ascendancy. So tech is on the wane and magic is on the rise. And people like Kate, who have abilities in the magical realm, can rent out their services basically to help people get along. I can't tell you too much about the plot because it's a fifth in the series, and although there is Monster of the Week elements in this series, there is also an overarching storyline, which, spoilers, so I can't tell you too much. This one has some anti-magic fanatics making trouble. It also has Julie, who is Kate's ward, running away from boarding school and making trouble. And it also has Kate doing some soul searching about her romantic relationship and asking questions about who she can really trust. So it was another good installment. I've been really enjoying this series. The other thing that I've finished this week is China Rich Girlfriend by Kevin Kwan. This is the sequel to Crazy Rich Asians, which I read earlier in the year. So Crazy Rich Asians was all about the scion of a uber rich Singaporean family who is bringing his American-born Chinese girlfriend back to meet the family with a view to getting married to her. She's Chinese and she's beautiful and she's smart and she's lovely, but she's not people like us. And so there's all sorts of dramas in that first one. And the story was all about sort of opening the gates and looking at the hijinks at these crazy rich Asians. This second one, Chinese Rich Girlfriend, the one that I just finished, is a couple of years down the line, and despite all of the dramas that went on in the first book, the couple at the heart of that one have managed to mend their fences. He finally proposes and they are going to get married. And so the story opens just a month or two before the wedding, and he is now estranged from his Singaporean family, and but mother finds out that the favourite son is getting married without her, against the family's wishes, and drama ensues all over again. There's also a bunch of stuff about her family line, because her father, who she has never met, is thought to be back in mainland China, and there are all sorts of investigations, and finally who this person is discovered. And then there's all sorts of dramas in China. So this book is set less in Singapore like the first one. There's a lot more stuff in mainland China. There's also quite a big section that's in Hong Kong, with jet setting across the world to Paris and London and New York and whatever as well. But yeah, it's a lot more of it is set in mainland China. And in fact, we meet a whole new cast of crazy rich Asians, and these are China rich. And apparently the China rich billionaires put the Singaporean rich to shame. And so in this one, the Singaporean people almost seem like moderate and reasonable compared to some of the bananas things that goes on with some of the other people that we meet. It's enjoyable, and it gives you a glimpse into how the other half of a particular stripe live, so it was fun. I also got started on The Dark Forest finally. I did a few kind of semi-sneaky things and possibly voided a warranty or two, and I managed finally to get it open on my e-reader, so I made a start on that. So that's one of the things that I'll probably be reading over the weekend. The other thing that I spent a bit of time reading this week is The Night Watch by Sergei Lukyanenko, which is Russian, translated by Andrew Bromfield, who also translated one of the other books that I read recently, and I can't remember the title. I got about 2/3 of the way through this and I just had to put it aside. So The Night Watch is a sort of fantastical story set in contemporary Russia. And in the world of the story, there are certain folk who are called others, and others have access to a second dimension that's everywhere in the world but invisible to all of us muggles. The second dimension called the Twilight. And folk who have access to the Twilight, once they get that, they also get a certain type of superpower, but it's different for different people. And they also need to become aligned either to the light or to the dark. So there are light magicians and dark magicians, and there are vampires, and there are, yeah. Anyway, there's different sorts of others, but all of them are either allied to the light or the dark. And there are groups within the others who sort of police the other population and their interactions with the muggle world. And there the group who are on the light side are called the Night Watch because they keep an eye on the dark magic users. Our stories mainly follow Anton, who is a young, relatively low level, light allied magic user who is a member of the Night Watch. And so he's tracking things down and getting into scrapes and trying to solve problems, which all sounds fine. It all sounds exactly like the sort of thing I would enjoy. It's just really turns the screw on moral dilemmas in the story, because the big question that keeps on recurring again and again is being allied to the light really a good thing? There is a contract between the two sides, and the Night Watch aren't about making sure bad doesn't happen. It's making sure that the balance is not overstepped. They constantly allowing bad things to happen as long as they are agreed upon bad things. So much of it is going on in Anton's head as he is having difficulties dealing with this, his loyalties and his whether or not what he's doing is right and what that even means anyway. And it was just I couldn't I'm getting to the point where I'm becoming really fatigued with this constant but what is good anyway. It's like I seem to be finding it over and over again in stories where supposedly good characters are shown to actually do bad things, and not just in a contemporary real world situation, but somebody who is set up in a fantasy kind of scenario to be a good guy, with a proper white hat or angel wings or something, who is then doing wrong, and a bad guy who's doing good, and people saying, but there's no difference, we're all the same. And it's I'm just I think I'm over reading about that now. It's like the dystopia thing. Dystopia is everywhere in contemporary fiction, and I feel like this thing is everywhere as well. I wonder what it means, and I understand that people, like in the real world, people don't come in two varieties, good guys and bad guys. We're all both, to a greater or lesser extent, depending on the circumstances that we're in. But by the same token, I don't think that means that there is no difference between good and bad, and that there isn't such a thing as a good decision. Sometimes I just want a hero that I can root for. What about you? Does anybody even know what I'm talking about? I've talked for too long again. So that's what I've been reading, and that's what I'm in the middle of. Why don't you tell me what you're planning on reading this weekend? I hope you're all well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.